All right, everybody. Let us begin. Anybody have run into any trouble zooming, selecting, navigating? Any issues? Because we're about to start drawing, so if you were running into any problems with those basic things, then no text yet. We are taking baby steps. All right, so launch AutoCAD and use that acad.dwt template, that 2D template, and open that up. And then I just want to confirm once more, just in case you've been sneaky, make sure that you've turned off all of these little drawing aids down here. So we don't want any of these things. You can leave the grid turned on, because that may actually help today. And you can leave the annotation visibility turned on. We're not using annotative objects today, but but you can leave that on. That's fine. But all this other stuff needs to be off. I'm serious, because if you don't turn that off, then what I'm about to show you is not going to work. And you will be wondering why your lines are ending up in the wrong place. Okay, so turn all those things off. So here we are. We are in AutoCAD. We have a blank screen now, and we can draw. So there are 3 drawing tools I'm going to teach you today, and then I'm going to give you some homework that I'm anticipating we'll have time to do some of that in class today, but you'll probably have to do some of it outside of class as well. But you should be able to complete the drawings I'm going to show you to do. You should be able to do all of them using these 3 drawing tools. Okay? And they are rectangle, line, and circle. Okay? You should be able to draw all. If you haven't looked yet, if you go onto Canvas, let me show you. If you go onto our class page in Canvas, you will see under modules that I have posted the assignment. Here is the assignment. I want you to draw all of these symbols using those 3, as well as this very simple diagram using only those 3 drawing commands. Okay? The only other one that you might find helpful is erase and undo, because you might screw up. You probably will. So, but you should be able to create all of these with these tools. So let me demonstrate kind of how these work. So let's start with line. So just type the word line and hit enter. And down here in the command prompt, it tells you, okay, you have instigated a line command. Specify the first point. So when you draw a line, you do it, it's like connect the dots. Okay? So you say a dot goes here, and a dot goes there, and a dot goes here, and a dot goes there. And it will draw lines between those dots. So the first point, we can start by just doing 0, 0, which would be 0 on the x, and 0 on the y, would be our origin. Then hit enter. You should see a line show up somewhere in your screen. So I want to do a line that is 20 units across. So you would do, it says specify your next point. So that would be 20 for the x, comma 0. Enter. You should get another line. Now notice, if you kind of move your mouse around, it's ready to draw another line already. You see that? But we're not going to do that yet, so go ahead and hit Escape to quit out of that command. And go ahead and zoom extents, and you'll see your line fill your screen. Okay, you see that? And then you can, if you want to back out a little bit, you can see it. So notice how my line begins right there at my origin, at my UCS, at 0, 0, and then proceeds out on 0y to 20 points on the x. Okay, you see how that works? By the way, if you haven't switched your units to decimal, you should. I told you to do that last week, but if you haven't, if you switched them back or something, you should switch them back to decimal. I taught you how to do that because we're going to be drawn in decimal, okay? So let's draw another line. Maybe I want a line to start halfway down this first line and then shoot up 20 units. In other words, I'm going to create a perpendicular line that intersects with the middle of this first line. So this time, instead of typing the full word line, just type L and hit Enter. Same thing. So you don't have to type the whole word, just type L and you get line. So our first point, what would our first point be if I wanted it to intersect with the midpoint of the first line I drew? Yes. So 10 on the x, comma 0 on the y, enter. There's my line, ready to go. So everybody get that far? And now it's asking me to specify the next point. So the next point, I said I wanted this to also be a 20-unit line, but I want it to be going up instead of sideways. So what would my new coordinates be?
10, 20.
Exactly, 10, 20. You guys are getting the idea. Enter. And it says, OK, specify the next point. We're not going to do a next point, so just hit Escape. And now do zoom extents. And you should see like an upside-down T. Yeah? What if I wanted to make this an I? Another line at the top, right? So let's do that. So line, specify the first point. What would the first point be? 0 on the x, but 20 on the y. Right? And then my next point would be 20, 20. Okay? And then, so in order to see, I've got another line ready to draw now. And you can do Escape to get out of that, or you can actually hit spacebar and or Enter, and it'll just, OK, you're done. You're canceling out. If you don't specify a new point and just hit Enter, then it ends the command. OK? So now I've got an I. What if I wanted to draw a diagonal line? Like maybe a line from the bottom left of my eye to the top right of my eye, a diagonal line. Yep, so let's do a line, and we're going to start at 0, 0. And then our next point would be 20, 20. And then you can enter out of that, and we got it. How are we doing?
Fantastic.
Have I lost anyone?
I got a question.
Yeah.
Mine is here.
Okay.
I need to put my mouse on.
Oh, so yeah, cancel out of that. You're not using the mouse to do this.
Okay.
You just type. All we do is type to do this.
Okay.
So you would do L for line. And then specify the next point.
First point should be 0, 0.
Yep. No, 0, 20.
Okay.
So here, yeah. So there you go. Now hit Enter.
Natural S gives you
Or no, you can't cancel out because you skipped ahead. So start over, do line, 0, 0. Okay, and now you're going to go to, that's your 0. Or wait, no, it's not. Why are you getting 0 there?
I don't know.
Try again, line 0, 0.
Line 0, 0. What?
It's definitely not 0, 0 there.
My.
Her origin seems to be in a weird place. Let me try this. World. Now try.
Okay.
There we go.
Great.
Yeah. Okay.
I did everything correctly, but
Yep.
what makes this 20? Like, how do I, because that's not, that's 5, 10, 15, 20.
Well, I mean, that grid is just a reference.
Okay.
It's not
So it's not actually.
necessarily connected to the units you're drawing.
It was
Okay,
still
cool.
strange. And
Okay.
0, 20, and it comes.
Okay, so next point would be 20, 0. So just type
Oh,
20, comma, no, not point, comma, 0. There you go. You got it. And now you can hit escape. And now you can do a line from here, which would be line at 0, or no, it would be 20, 10, 0. 10, 0. There you go. And now you'd be at 10, 20. See? There you go. You're getting it. Okay. Anybody else running into any issues? Okay. Yeah, so use the comma, not the decimal. Super important. I make that mistake sometimes too. We want commas, not decimals. Decimals will come in mean a different thing, which we'll get into that a little bit later. Okay, so far so good for lines. So pretty simple. You just type L or line, and then you connect dots. You just type in the coordinates of the dots. The concept that I'm really trying to drive home with you guys this week is this XY coordinate system. You've got to kind of understand, because that's how everything is done in AutoCAD, is everything you draw exists somewhere in that XY grid. And you've got to understand how that XY grid relates to what you're drawing, or you're not going to be able to do anything. Nothing works, nothing makes sense, because everything in AutoCAD is relative to that XY grid, okay? So let's go ahead and select all these things. So let me show you just a really quick shortcut for that. You can type the word select, or I think really just SEL is the shortcut for that. Select, and then where it says select objects, just type all and hit enter. And now it should have selected everything. You see that? So now hit enter again, and now everything's selected. And now to get rid of all these lines we drew, we're going to use the erase function. So just type E for erase and hit enter, and all of it goes away. Okay? Erase will be your friend this week, because you're probably going to draw a lot of bad lines that you'll then need to not have anymore. And erase is what's going to help you. All right, you ready to try rectangles? Okay, so type the word rectangle, or really you can just type REC. Yeah, rectang is really the command. So REC, enter, and it says specify the first corner point, or it gives you some other options which we're not going to deal with today. So the first corner point, let's do 0, 0. And then it says specify the other corner. So when you do a rectangle, you just specify the opposing corners, the diagonal corners. So if I wanted to draw a box around that same kind of space where we were drawing before, how large was that? 20 by 20, right? So the diagonal point for this would be 20, comma 20, enter. There you go. I get a square. So just because it's called the rectangle tool doesn't mean it can't draw squares. It can draw squares. Squares are technically rectangles, but not all rectangles are squares, right? You understand that? Simple concept, but important. Now, if I wanted to draw an actual rectangle, let's try that. REC will start at 0, 0 again. And this time, instead of going all the way to 20, 20, let's go to 20, 15. Okay? See that? Now, AutoCAD is kind of overlapping these two lines. But if you notice, if you move around with your mouse, you can select them independently. But if you hover over the spot where they overlap, it's probably going to, by default, select the last thing, the latest thing you drew in that spot. Okay? So if you wanted to get the square behind it, you'd probably have to go up to this area above and select that, and using whatever method you wanted. So, but let's say we wanted to get rid of the square now and keep the rectangle. We could do that method before where we selected everything and then used erase, but we can do it the other way too. You can do erase first and then select. So just type that. Type E for erase. And the first command for erase, if you don't have anything selected, is select objects. Okay? So now you can select it however you want. You can just click on that spot. You can also do a left, green drag to select it. And once you've got it all the things selected, just hit enter, and it goes away. Get that? Let's draw a rectangle that goes the other way, that's taller than it is wide. So type rec. Let's start at 0, 0 again. And this time we'll go to 10, 20. See that? See how that works? Okay, what if I wanted to draw another rectangle that started at this corner, this top right corner of the rectangle I just drew? I wanted another rectangle that's identical to that one, but it starts in a different place. So we would type rec for rectangle, and this time our first corner point would be 10, 20, exactly. There it is. And then my next point, if I wanted that rectangle to be just kind of a diagonal to the first one, my next point would be probably 20, 40, yeah. So zoom out, and you should be able to see that now. Yeah, see that? See how that works? Now, what if I wanted to draw another rectangle just like that, but diagonal from the lower right corner? So we'll do a rectangle. This one will start at 0, 0, but I want it to go down this way. What would my coordinates be now for my next point? Yeah, -10, comma, -20. See that now? And just to clear things up, let's delete that first sideways column or rectangle. So select it, click erase, and now you see we've got 3 identical rectangles that are all touching each other, but they just go different directions. You kind of see how that works? Any questions? Anybody have any problems with any of this? Okay. So in the early days of AutoCAD, this was how you did it. You just typed. There's no mouse. You just typed to draw. Okay? And that's how I want you to learn how to draw first, is learn to draw by typing. Because no matter, like I said last week, no matter what they change, because they change something every year in AutoCAD in order to justify charging you money again. They will always change something. But so far, they have never changed that underlying subsystem of command line drawing just by typing commands. That part has not changed. So if you can get comfortable using those typed commands as much as possible, and as you'll see over the next few weeks, that there are some things that, some of the new developments that have come over the years that involve graphical user interfaces and moving your mouse pointer are really helpful and make things a lot easier. And you should definitely use those to your advantage. But it's important that you learn first just how to draw with these command line tools, so that if all else fails and you just can't remember where the box is to click to get the thing you're looking for, you should at least be able to just type the command you're looking for and get it. Even if you buy the new version of AutoCAD 10 years from now after a 5-year break and you realize, whoa, it looks completely different, you should always be able to just start typing and draw. Okay? What about circles? Let's erase everything that we got so far. So type E, select objects, just type all, and enter, and then enter again, and they'll go away. Let's draw a circle. So type S or C-I-R, or just C is the command for circle. It's going to ask you, specify the center point for the circle. Or it has some other options here that we're not going to get into today. Maybe we'll get into those later. But let's just have our center point be 0, 0, because that's easy to remember. Then it says specify the radius of the circle. Or you can specify it in diameter if you want. But let's try radius first. So let's just do a radius of 2. So type 2, enter, and you get a circle centered at 0, 0 with a radius of 2. So let's try to draw one that's a little bit larger. We'll use diameter. So type C for circle. We'll do the same center point, 0, 0. And now instead of typing in the radius number, type the letter D for diameter and hit enter. And now it says, OK, now specify the diameter. And the diameter, I'd like this circle to be twice as large as the first one I drew. So the first one I drew had a diameter of what? 4, right? Because it had a radius of 2. So what would be the diameter of a circle that was twice that size? 8, right? So type 8, enter, and you get another circle twice as big. You can zoom extents, and you'll see them both full screen. Makes sense? What if I wanted to draw a circle that had the center point intersecting with the top, the top edge of this larger circle? So I'd do a circle, and where would my center point be? It would be 0, 4, right? Because the radius is 4 of that larger circle. So if I type 0, 4, then I get a new circle centered up there. And let's have this one be another radius of 2. So type 2, enter. And now you can zoom out, and you'll see what we've created. See that? Make sense? Everybody understand how I got there? Yeah. So maybe you've figured this out already, but if you haven't, I'm just going to call it out, which is that drawing this way, using only command line and not using your mouse or any of the drawing aids, you've really got to keep track of where you are, okay? Because the computer's not keeping track for you, okay? It's just asking you for absolute values. It doesn't know where the last point was, necessarily.
So what if you were to put like 0, 2.5? Would it not let you?
It would do that.
You can?
Yeah. Try it. Yeah, try a circle at radius 0, 2.5. Yeah, happy to do it. It'll do whatever you ask it to do. But if the task was to draw a circle whose edge intersected with one before, that's going to be a little tricky. I'm going to have to do some math to figure that out. So as we go through the homework and the assignment for today, you're going to have to keep track of where things are. You may have to jot things down, or maybe just take some notes on your computer to just know where you were, where you started, where you ended up with the last point, because you're going to have to specify and position things relative to things before, and the computer isn't necessarily going to keep track of that part for you. Now, in the long run, it is possible to tell the computer to reference points that you've already drawn. To say, hey, draw this point 2 units to the right of this other point I've already drawn. And you don't have to know where that first point was. But that's sort of an advanced drawing aid that I'm not going to let you use yet, okay? Because you've got to learn the hard way and understand how the hard way works before you can really appreciate those tools, right? Because I don't want you to take those for granted, because then you won't really understand how this coordinate system works. So this assignment I'm giving you this week is all about, it's not necessarily about creating a pretty drawing. Okay, what you create, may not be, it's probably not going to be your best work that you produce this semester. But if you draw all of those symbols with any degree of accuracy, you will likely come out of that experience understanding this coordinate system and understanding how these basic command line drawing tools work, okay? So maybe you've had some of your peers already show you some of these special tools in AutoCAD. Just pretend that that didn't happen, okay? Because it'd be very easy for you to just turn some of that stuff on and get this done a lot faster, okay? But that would be, not only would that be cheating, but you would be robbing yourself of a critical educational experience that I'm trying to create for you, okay? I am trying to very carefully roll out skill acquisition here, okay? And if you leapfrog over things, that will come back to bite you later, okay? So we're going to learn to walk before we learn how to run.
I actually ran before I walked. That's fast.
Yeah.
Child, pushed off my mom's legs and ran my dad's.
All right.
Did that for 3 months.
That explains a lot. Yeah.
I'm going to stop telling you anecdotes about me.
All right, so go ahead and let's just erase all this stuff. Start with a blank slate. And let's go take a closer look at this homework. OK, so basically, I'm going to have you create most of the types of symbols that I took you through last week in that USITT guideline. What I've done is I've just stripped out all of the annotations, all of the text and everything, because we haven't learned how to do that yet. So I took all that out, and I even simplified a few of these symbols just to make it a little bit easier for you to draw them using command line tools. Okay. So if you look carefully, for example, the little circle that intersects that line, normally in the guidelines, that would be a solid circle. It would be filled in. But I haven't taught you how to do that yet. So we'll just do a hollow one for now, okay? And later I'll tell you how to fill it in, okay? And notice that I am specifying you should be able to draft all of these symbols using only these 5 commands. And if you never make a mistake, you'll only need the first 3. Okay?
That's the goal.
You're really betting it on a lot.
That's the
there.
right? But if you make mistakes, you might find the other two helpful, okay? And yes, undo works as a command line tool. You just type the word undo, and it will undo whatever the last thing was that you did, okay? And I've also put in parentheses the shortcuts for those commands, so you don't have to type the whole word if you don't want to, okay?
For your assignment, is there a measurement guide that you want to go off of?
Nope.
How big?
Nope.
Pick the
But
scale, don't be
well, I'm going to take you through. We're going to draw a couple of these together right now, just so you start wrapping your head around the process, and then I'm going to cut you loose to do your own. Now you have two options here for how you want to do this. You can do each of these symbols as a separate drawing, which the advantage there is you can have all of them kind of starting at that origin, that 0, 0, which might make it a little bit easier to keep track of where everything is. The downside of that is you got to turn in a separate file for each symbol, which I'm okay with. But your other option is to draw them all in the same document. That's okay too, but you're just going to have to figure out how to position them so they're not all overlapping each other. Okay, and that's possible, totally possible, still using only those 3 commands, but it's a little bit more points to keep track of. Okay, so it's up to you how you want to do it. The only thing that I want you to use, that you're allowed to use your mouse or your trackpad for, is zooming and selecting, or panning even. So those things that I taught you last week. The only thing you're allowed to use your mouse for is to just navigate what you're looking at and maybe select things. But don't try to resist the temptation to use it for other things. Okay? Any questions? So once you draw all these symbols, then I also want you to draw this diagram, which is made up of all those symbols. And I haven't taught you how to copy and move around symbols you've already drawn yet, so you're going to have to draw them again in order to draw this diagram. Okay? CAD is all about muscle memory. Okay? Getting really good and really fast at CAD is the only way to do that is to just draw and draw and draw and draw and draw over and over and over again. So again, the point here is not to get these done, because there's a lot easier ways to draw these symbols than the way that I'm going to make you do it. If I just wanted you to draw pretty symbols, if that was all I cared about, this would be a very different process. So you're probably never going to show these to anybody again. You're never going to use these for anything, for a project or right? Yeah, the only thing you might show these is, hey, I drew these entirely with command line and portfolio review, and that might be a gee whiz sort of thing for a portfolio review, but it's not. I'm just saying, I know that you guys kind of like being, you want everything to look nice, you want to do good work and everything, and I applaud that, but that's not what this is about, right? This is about something else. This is about process, not product, okay? So with that in mind, let's do a process, shall we? So here's a little shortcut. These are just PNG files. So if you just right-click on this one, say save this image to downloads, then you should be able to pull it up in preview on your computer. And why is that important? Because then you can annotate it. And you can keep track of where your points are by just taking notes on top of this thing. And as you'll see, that's going to be important. So let's draw this first symbol, this basic device block. So if we look at this symbol, what sort of shapes and objects is this made out of? Before we draw it, let's just figure out what it's going to take to draw this. We're going to need a rectangle, right? The main shape is a rectangle. And then this is a line here. And then I've got these 4 lines here. So I should be able to draw this using a rectangle and 5 lines. Okay? This is another really important critical skill, to be able to look at something that's been drawn and break it down into the parts that made it. Super critical skill. This is a really easy symbol, but there are more complicated ones out there that you got to be able to look at and say, okay, what is that made of? You know, because everything is usually made out of some combination of lines, rectangles, and circles. Okay? And you just got to figure out where they all are inside of that potentially complicated thing you're looking at. Where are the circles? Where are the lines? Where are the rectangles? Okay? So we know that we should be able to draw this using 1 rectangle and 5 lines. Let's try it, shall we? So I'm going to type rectangle, REC, enter. First corner point. I'm going to say 0, 0, because that's a nice, easy place to start that I don't have to think too hard about. Okay? And then my next point, looking at that drawing, it looks like that rectangle is twice as wide as it is tall. And if it's not exactly that, it's close. Okay? So let's assume that. And I want to give myself plenty of resolution here, so I'm not having to deal with, like, 3.785 to get things to show up in the right place. So let's do a rectangle that is 20 units wide by 10 units tall. Okay? So that would be 20, 10, right, for our opposite point. Enter. And you can zoom out, and you'll see there it is. Now, does that look approximately like the shape that we need? Yeah, it might be a little taller, but that's all right. Let's just try it. I'm not going to check like. No, they don't have to be. I'm looking for you to generally recreate. If you nail the ratios like perfectly, I'm going to think like, okay, maybe you right? So that's not super important. So, but this is close enough for doing what we need to do. All right, so let's draw that line that goes across the top. So L for line. And the first point, where do you think, it'll start at 0 on the x. So what do you, yeah, it would be probably not 8 or 9 maybe. Somebody you want to try 8? So let's do 0, 8, enter. There it is right there. I think that looks all right. I like that. But Nora, if you want to do something 7, that's fine too. You can do that. I don't. And then what would my next point be for this? For this line? 20, 8. Yes. There we go. And then I'll hit enter again or escape to get out of the line command. There we go. That is starting to look like the thing I'm trying to draw, doesn't it? Okay, now I got to draw 4 more lines to be my little connector points. So let's do the ones on the left first. So I'll do a line. And I know the first point is going to be 0, right? So 0, let's do the top one. Where would the top one be in that vertical scale? Probably 5 or 6. Let's do 6, just for fun. 0, 6. There it is. Yeah, that looks reasonable. And the next point would probably be, we're going to stay on that 6 for the y, right? And we're just going to change the x. So maybe like a -2 or 3. Yeah. So I'll do -2, 6. And then hit enter to get out of that. Yeah, that looks about right. And you could do a -3 as well, and that'd be just fine. All right, let's do the other one on the left. So that one will be another line command. First point's going to be 0, let's say 4. 2 units down from there. Yep, that looks good. And then this time I'll be -2 again, 4. And then enter or escape to get out of the line command. Yeah, not so bad, right? We're almost done. Everybody with me so far? So all by yourself now, draw those 2 lines on the side without me telling you what to do. And I'm going to do them up here while you work on it.
Are you honestly, you gotta tell him you're serious. Because if anyone in this room would not know how to spell line, I think it would be.
There you go. I did it. Did everybody do it? Now, if you look back on the original symbol, notice that the lines coming out of the right are lined up vertically with the lines coming out of the left. Okay, so just make sure you do that. So if you look at what I drew, it's not exactly the dimensions and everything of the source, but that's good enough. This would be fine, acceptable for the purposes of this assignment. Okay? Yeah.
Okay, so a lot of the times that when we are drawing stuff in CAD, we have to create 2 lines to indicate that there's something between the 2 lines. Yeah? I'm talking about?
2 lines to indicate there's something in between the 2 lines.
So like normally you would have something, okay, so like that box. The box, there's if we're going like signal flow, there's wiring or electricity going through that box, and those 2 lines are indicating that it's a pathway.
Okay.
So in CAD, is there a way to create a single line and then eliminate parts of the line without eliminating the entire line?
Oh, yeah. Yep. Sneak peek. The command is trim. Okay? But don't go there yet. Okay?
That was incorrect.
And to make that work, you've got to draw some lines first. In order to use trim, you have to usually draw some lines you don't need,
And then get rid of
and then use them as the guide to get rid of the parts you don't want. Right? Right. Okay. So there we go. We did our first one. Yay. All right. Since I don't have to turn this in, I'm going to erase this. But you can save it if you want. Yeah.
Is it okay if we say like, because you know how you said we could draw in like individual ones or do all in one?
Yeah.
Could we like select and then move that away from the origin after, or do you want us to just leave?
Yeah, but move is a command that I haven't
that
taught
we
you.
haven't taught, yeah.
So that's not one of the 5 commands you're allowed to use.
I'm guessing similarly, using layers would also be.
Yep. Layers is not one of the 5 commands I've taught you.
Try to cheat
Promise
the
it's
system.
illegal to use.
5 commands. Line,
Circling right now.
rectangle, circle.
I mean, really, we're just drawing.
And if you screw up, erase or undo.
That's 5 commands.
5 commands. These are the only 5 commands you're allowed to use. Okay? You can use zoom too if you want. If you'd rather not do zoom with your mouse, you can do zoom with the command line. But okay. All right. Let's try the microphone down here at the bottom. You see this microphone symbol? Let's see what that would be like. So I'm going to start with the circle. So circle. And my center point, I'm just going to do 0, 0, because it's easy to remember. Radius, let's do 2 again, like before. Why not? I mean, just any old value will do. Radius of 2. There's my circle. Okay? So now I want to draw that vertical line out to the left. And the middle of that line needs to intersect or touch the edge of this circle. So I'll start the line command. Where would the first point of this line be? Where would the top point of this line be? Well, you said something, Deanne, that sounded right. What was it?
Is it right?
What was it? What did you say?
You said 0, 2? You mean
Oh, no, not quite. So I'm looking for this spot right up here. Where would that be? That's the top of the line I have to draw.
Oh, if you have two. Two negative.
Close.
What? Oh, well, no. Wait, other way around.
Yes. Negative 2, comma 2, right?
I took that class.
Negative 2, comma 2. There's the start of my line. See it? Yay, it's in the right place. Okay, where would the next point be? Any guesses where the next end of this line would be? Yes, negative 2, comma negative 2. There you go. And then hit Enter or Escape to get out of that command. We did it. Okay, now there's one more line in this, right? There's a circle and 2 lines that make this symbol. The other line has to start at the right edge of the circle and then go off forever or, some distance that you can decide. Okay? So that's another line. So I'll type L, Enter. First point. Where's the first point of this line going to be? 2. Yep. 2, comma 0. 2, comma 0, right? There it is, right? It's in the right spot. Now, by the way, if it wasn't in the right spot, notice that this word undo is in captions. That means if you just hit Enter, undo is the inferred command. So if it's like, that was the wrong spot, just hit Enter, and it says, OK, forget that ever happened. Let's try that again. Line, and we can do 2, comma 0. We're back where we were. OK, the next point would be any value, comma 0, right? So I'll just do 20. 20, comma 0. And there's my line. And I'll hit Enter to get out. And there we are. There's my symbol, yeah? There's my microphone symbol. That looks just about right, doesn't it? Let's compare that against the assignment. Yeah. I think it works, yes? Make sense?
Yes.
Okay, you ready to do the hard one? Yes, but not that hard one. I'm talking about, let's do one of these amplifiers. Okay. Yeah, so yes, let's break this down into let's do this one. Let's do this first one. So what are the shapes, using the 3 commands, how many of each command are we going to have to do? So I'm going to have to do 1 rectangle, yeah? And then, I haven't taught you a triangle command, have I?
No, you use lines.
Is there? There is the triangle.
I tried it. It takes you to trim.
There's a polygon command that you, I suppose, could use to draw a triangle, but that's not one of the 5 commands I've taught you.
That's an illegal command.
Illegal command. So yes, triangles are made up of 3 lines, yes? Okay, so I've already got 1 rectangle and 6 lines to do the main shape plus the 2 triangles. And then looks like 7 lines would give me that top bar, and then 8, 9, 10, 11 would give me the connections. So 1 rectangle and 11 lines should be able to draw this shape, yes? Would you concur?
Yes.
All right, let's do it. So rectangle, starting at 0, comma 0. And what would my dimensions here be? I'm going to do 5, comma 10, maybe? How's that look compared to my reference? Pretty close. Might actually be a little wider. Maybe let's do 6, 10. So you can select that, hit erase. So 0, 0, or sorry, rectangle. 0, 0. And I'm going to do 6, 10. Let's compare that. Yeah, I like that better. All right, let's draw the line across the top. So that'll be a line, what do you think? 0, 9 or 0, 8? Think 8. 0, 8. And the other side of that would be what? Yes, 6, 8. How's that look? Sure, I would buy that. Okay, now what about these triangles? Let's draw the top one first. Okay? So I want to draw this vertical line, the left side of this top triangle. And I'm going to just tweak my window here a little bit so that I can see these as I draw. Okay? So this will be a line. So type line. The first point. So I'm going to say 1 on the x and maybe 7 on the y. Do 1 unit below my little title line. Let's try 1, 7, see where that ends up. Sure, I could buy that. Okay. Now, how far down do I need to go? Well, this line really ought to hit at the midpoint of this inner rectangle, yeah? And this inner rectangle is how tall? The whole thing was 10, and then we drew our title line 2 units down from there. So it's 8 units tall, and I started 1 unit in from there, didn't I? So the midpoint would be if I took 2 off, I'm at 8, so it would be 4, right? Okay, so let's do 1, 4 and see if that looks right. Yeah, I think I would buy that. Okay. Now let's see. Where is the? This isn't. These are. This is that kind of triangle that has the same. The same on every side.
Equilateral.
Yes, equilateral. Good.
I'm just yelling on all the triangles that I draw.
So equilateral.
Scaling is the whack one.
So we know that the end of this, if the top of this line was at 7 and the bottom of it was at 4, we know that the tip of the triangle will be halfway between 7 and 4, right? Which would be where? What's halfway between 7 and 4?
4.5. 6. What?
5.5. 5.5.
You're just saying numbers.
Okay, so I know that y will be 5.5, yes?
Yes.
What would x be?
How wide do you want the triangle? You can have it at 5, because oh no,
Or you
it's
could have it
6.
at 5.5. Nothing's stopping you.
So remember, how wide was my box here?
Oh.
Well, no, because if it's
My box here was 5 units wide, right? So it's probably going to end up being,
Kate says 3.
I say 3.5.
Oh. Kate got one
I think that, let's try that. Let's try 3.5, comma 5.5. How's that look? Yes. Okay. And then we go back to where we started. So our next point will be the original point. And what was the original point? Where did we start this triangle? 1, comma 7, yes? So 1, comma 7. Yeah, there we go. And enter to get out. Okay, so what I notice about this is maybe in a perfect world, this would be 1 unit further over to the right, this whole triangle, yeah? But that's not super important, I don't think, for this. Because if you look at the source drawing, these triangles are not actually centered inside of it. They are a little further to the left, Mine is maybe a little bit farther, but it's probably okay. It's not far enough off I'm going to want to start over. Okay? I think it's acceptable. So let's draw the next triangle. And we'll do it in the same order. So we'll do the vertical line first, and then go out and then back. So this first point on this line will start where? Should be at 4 on the vertical, right? And 1. So x would be 1. So 1, comma 4. Yes, it's in the right place. And then how far down do we go? Yeah, 1, comma 1. That looks about right, doesn't it? And then for the point of my triangle, that's going to be, I think we decided 5.5, right, on the x? No. Yes? And what was our y? Actually, I think it was 3.5 on the x. It was 5.5 on the vertical, the last one. 3.5 on the x. And then my y vertical would be, so halfway between 1 and 4. That would be, yes, 3.5. Yes? Is that right? 3.5? 3.5, comma 3.5? Let's see where if that ends up in the right place. No, that's not right. So watch what I'm going to do. I'm just going to say U for undo, U enter, and I go back to the previous command. So it's probably 2.5, right? 2.5, comma 3.5. Nope. U. Yeah, so it'll be 3.5 on the x and 2.5 on the vertical? Yes. Is that what we think? Yes. 2.5? Yeah, that looks almost there. Undo. Yeah, it should be 3.5 on x, comma 2.5 on y. Yeah, there we go. I don't know what I did. I thought that's what I typed, but maybe I didn't. Okay, and then we close this triangle at what point? 1, comma 4. And then enter, we're out. Hey, look, we did it. We got 2 triangles. And then we just need 2 lines. 4 lines, but 2 coming out of each triangle. So my first, if I do the left line coming out of the top triangle, that would be at 1, comma 5.5 probably. And then I would go maybe like minus 4, comma 5.5? Yeah. See that? And then I'll do another one, which would be 3.5, comma 5.5. That comes off my tip there. And then I'll do, what the heck, 8, comma 5.5. There we go. I got my top 2 lines. And then my bottom 2 lines would be 1, comma 2.5, right? Have you spotted the way that I'm cheating a little bit yet? Yeah. So you can actually hover your little cursor over the spot, and you'll see down here in this bottom, this area in the bottom here, the coordinates. And it won't be exact, but because you're drawing on a self-imposed grid, you can figure out where it is. That'll help you a little bit. So now I'm going to do, this will be 2, no, this will be, I think I did -4, right? Comma 2.5. And then this one will be 3.5, comma 2.5. And 8, comma 2.5. There we did. There we go. I did that. Did the amplifier. Okay. Are we okay now?
Yeah.
Everybody all right? Okay. So that's I've taught you everything you need to know to draw the rest of these. Okay. So that is your assignment. We have looks like an hour and a half that you can work on this, so do that now. So the rest of the time is now time for you to work on this. And I'll be here and I can help you. And then if you don't get it done in the next hour and a half, you can do the rest of it throughout the week. Okay, but it's due top of class in the morning. And you need to upload the files to Canvas. Okay, so if you go onto the Canvas page, you'll see there is a place, well, you won't see it, but if I do student view, let me see if I can do that. Let me show you what it looks like to you. So you go to Modules, System Diagram Blocks Assignment, and you scroll down. So, up here, Submit Assignment. And you can just add files. And if you do separate files, you should be able to add all of them. You can upload them one at a time. Or if it's all one, that's fine too. But just upload the DWG files that you saved from CAD. And then I'll grade them. And I'm giving you even a little rubric that kind of tells you what I'm going to look for and what I'm interested in. Okay? So I'm interested in the degree to which you completed everything I said to do. Did you actually complete all the symbols I told you to draw? To what quality was that done? And I'm measuring quality as in terms of how many errors are there, how many things are wrong. And I'm interested in your mastery of the critical skills. And the critical skills here are understanding this XY coordinate system, understanding command line drawing. Okay, so if I get a sense that you did some shortcuts and maybe used some drawing aids to avoid having to type all these commands, then that would not demonstrate a mastery of the critical skill. Okay, you understand? Okay, so that is the assignment. And I'll stop the video now, and then you can start working.